If you have somebody who is dead set on retaining power for life, by opening up this possibility of a re-election, then syempre some quarters are saying go into a parliamentary system without term limits. Now that is that big danger that somebody will suddenly decide to never leave.
Today on Rappler, after being criticized for saying he's open to a second term, President Aquino acknowledges it's open to abuse of power. Senator Santiago favors granting President Aquino emergency powers to address a looming power crisis. And a day before the historic vote, new polls show Scotland could narrowly reject independence. Hello, I'm Paterno Esmaquel. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Facing public outrage over talk of re-election, President Benigno Aquino acknowledges a second term is open to abuse of power. Speaking to reporters Monday after visiting Spain, Aquino says a second term might open the possibility for one who, quote, might not have altruistic intentions to abuse his power in the future.
Whether you like it or not, there is one term period. No? We close that door. We ensure nobody who might not have altruistic intentions to have any possibility of perpetuating himself in power. That seems to be such an ideal condition. Plus all the attendant benefits, yeah? You have to make decisions.
But Aquino also says re-electing him as president has a host of benefits and is possible even if the Constitution prohibits this.
Palagi ko, the people who are saying run again are saying that I did a good job in the past 4 years. Now, siyempre, you become more efficient without a learning curve in a second term. That's the plus. Yung commitments that
Aquino's critics and even a number of allies have thumbed down Aquino's proposal to lift the term limit. But a Malacanang official close to Aquino earlier told Rappler the idea was never serious. It was supposedly meant to make the camp of Vice President Jejo Marbinay, who is eyeing the presidency in 2016, to slow down on their campaign aggression. Senator Miriam Santiago favors granting President Aquino emergency powers to avert a looming power crisis, but for only 6 months. In a news briefing, Santiago says there is no time to build more power plants to address the expected power shortage in the summer of 2015.
As I said, we can't build any more power plants because we just don't have the time and it costs too much. So we just need to give him this power so that he can make sure that the outages will not follow the schedule that have already been drawn up by certain experts.
The Energy Department says an additional 400 to 500 megawatts are needed as a buffer supply. Aquino earlier asked Congress to grant him powers to contract additional power generating capacity. Santiago says Aquino should be given emergency powers immediately. But Senate President Franklin Drilon and Senator Sergius Menya say the process cannot be rushed. Senator Miriam Santiago says the United States should volunteer to pay for the damage its warship inflicted on TUBBATAHA Reef. This comes after the Supreme Court said the matter of seeking compensation is up to President Aquino. The court added it does not have jurisdiction over the case against the U.S. because of a legal principle that makes states immune from suit. The U.S. said it was prepared to provide compensation for the damaged marine reserve, but petitions filed before the Philippine Supreme Court led to an impasse in negotiations between the Philippines and the U.S. The Philippines condemns extremist group ISIS or the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. In a statement Wednesday, the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA says the Philippines will do its part in global efforts to thwart ISIS. This comes after Reuters on Saturday reported 2 Filipinos died fighting for the terrorist group. The DFA says the reported deaths, quote, remain unconfirmed. It adds, Philippine security officials are monitoring possible recruitment by ISIS and other foreign extremist groups in the Philippines. Intelligence officials earlier said at least one Filipino has gone to fight the jihad in Syria, while rebels from the Abu Sayyaf and Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters claim to have pledged their allegiance to ISIS. Lava cascades down Mayon Volcano Wednesday as authorities rush to evacuate thousands of people ahead of a possible deadly eruption. On Monday, authorities raised Alert Level 3, or the critical mode, and declared a state of calamity over areas surrounding the volcano. At least 8,000 of the target 50,000 people are moved to temporary shelters, with the operation expected to run for 3 days. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology says more magma was moving up the crater each day. About 120 heads of state will attend the United Nations Climate Change Summit on September 23, making it the biggest gathering of world leaders on the issue. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon urges governments and businesses to announce commitments that will support an ambitious climate change treaty in 2015. What's on the agenda and what's at stake for Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines? Ay Makaraig is at the UN headquarters in New York, and she files this video blog.
The cost of inaction is much greater than the cost of action. This is a key theme as the United Nations prepares to host the biggest climate change gathering of world leaders in history. On September 23rd, 120 heads of state and government, including Philippine President Benigno Aquino III, will be here at the UN headquarters in New York to announce concrete action to fight climate change. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is hosting the summit to support separate negotiations to come up with a legally binding treaty by 2015 to avert the dangerous effects of climate change. A week before the summit, the Secretary General and UN officials announced that hundreds of business leaders from key industries like oil and gas, land use, and forestry will also attend the summit to discuss investments in clean energy and low carbon growth. Secretary General Ban says the absence of China and India, two of the biggest greenhouse gas emitters, will not be a hindrance to the success of his summit. He says the summit will discuss pressing issues like getting developed nations to give developing nations financial and technological support to help them adapt to climate change and build resilience.
I expect the governments and a wide range of actors in key sectors of the global economy, from energy, cities, industry and transport and forestry and agriculture. There should be a firm commitment that we should reduce greenhouse gas emissions so that we will be able to contain the global temperature rise within 2 degrees centigrade.
UN officials admit there is no enforcement mechanism for the commitments announced in the summit. After all, the main venue for negotiations remains the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Still, the leaders we talked to say Southeast Asia has a lot at stake in this event.
Southeast Asia is archipelagic and also have a lot of coastlines. And that is something that is very important to note. Okay, that climate change is something that is impacting us, archipelagic countries, in a more significant way than the countries that is actually landlocked.
Besides government, business leaders, and civil society groups, there will also be star power in the summit. The Secretary General announces the appointment of actor Leonardo DiCaprio as UN Messenger for Peace with special focus on climate change issues. The Wolf of Wall Street star will address the opening of the summit. Well, celebrity or not, this event is an effort of the world body to put climate change squarely on top of the global agenda at a time world leaders' attention is divided by multiple crises happening one after the other. Ay Makaraig, Rappler, United Nations.
New opinion polls show Scotland could narrowly reject independence a day before the historic vote that could split the United Kingdom. 3 polls released late Tuesday all showed the pro-independence side gained ground, but the no campaign was still ahead by a slim margin. Rival camps set out Wednesday to convince undecided voters with a better together and Yes Scotland campaigns, both planning rallies of supporters in central Glasgow on the eve of the vote. Leader of the pro-independent Scottish National Party, Alex Salmond, urges voters to end the 307-year-old union. Earlier leaders of three main British parties pledged to give the Scottish Parliament more powers if voters reject independence. Let's now look at Rappler's Trap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 9, South Koreans are banned from carrying North Korean flags into Asian Games venues. Organizers in Seoul say anyone waving North Korean flags at an event could face arrest. Meanwhile, North Korea's reporters at the Asian Games will have to file stories using fax machines because their web access is restricted in South Korea. The Asian Games officially open in Incheon Friday. And at number 10, U.S. Space Agency NASA selects Boeing and SPACEX to build spacecraft to carry astronauts to the International Space Station by 2017. NASA has been unable to send astronauts to space since the retirement of the Space Shuttle in 2011. It awarded $6.8 billion to the two companies, adding to the more than $1.4 billion it spent since 2010 to help private companies develop their own crew transport vehicles. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com/app. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page, which crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories with the most clicks. We have many negative stories on our mood navigator today. We have this purple story, Aquino's second term open to abuse of power. This story made 46% of readers annoyed. Most other stories on our mood navigator today are red stories. This one about the internet, pressure on PLDT to solve the Philippines' slow internet, 22% annoyed and 65% angry. Grace Poe chides no-show PNP chief at Senate hearing, 92% angry. And the story that got the most number of votes today, for the second straight day, the Lord of Makati, can Binay explain his wealth, 3% annoyed and 91% angry. The red votes on our mood navigator all contributed to the mood of the day. For the second straight day, most people are angry. That is Rappler's Newscast for today, Wednesday, September 17, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Paterno West Makel. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.
You have somebody who is dead set on retaining power for life. By opening up this possibility of a re-election, then several supporters are saying go into a parliamentary system without term limits. Now that is that big danger that somebody will suddenly decide to never leave.